I never thought silence could be so loud. The house we built together, the one filled with laughter, arguments and memories, felt like a ghost town after she was gone. 30 years gone in a blink. My wife, my best friend, the woman who knew every part of me, had left me with nothing but echoes. The first weeks after her passing, I couldn't sleep. Not because of grief, but because the world felt too empty. The chair by the window she used to sit in was still there, and every time I looked at it, I could almost see her smile. It was like she was waiting for me to join her in whatever came next. I found myself walking through the rooms aimlessly. The photos on the walls stared back, frozen in time. Our wedding day, our kids' birthdays, vacations, all reminders of a life shared. Yet here I was alone. Friends tried to reach out. They said things like, "You'll find love again," or "It takes time." But how do you even start to imagine that? After 3 decades, love wasn't just a feeling. It was a lifetime of moments, a language only we spoke. One night, restless and unable to hold back the ache, I drove aimlessly. The city lights blurred past like distant stars I could never reach. That's when I realized I couldn't live trapped in memories. She wouldn't want me to. Maybe, just maybe, there was a way forward. The days after that drive were different. Not easier, just different. I started going outside more. Small things at first, a walk in the park, a coffee at the corner cafe, places I hadn't visited since she passed. One afternoon, while sitting on a bench watching kids play, I noticed her, an older woman with a warm smile and eyes that seemed to hold stories. She was reading a book, but every now and then she'd glance up, as if looking for someone to share the moment with. Something about her made me feel less alone. I told myself it was just curiosity, but when she looked over and smiled at me, something inside shifted. I found myself nodding in return. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this, whatever this was the beginning of something new, but I wasn't sure if I was ready to leave the past behind. The next day, I found myself back at the park, hoping to see her again. I didn't know her name, but somehow I felt like I already knew her story. She was there, just like before, sitting with her book. I worked up the courage and walked over. "Mind if I sit?" I asked, my voice rough from disuse. She looked up, surprised, then smiled warmly. "Not at all. We talked about small things at first, the weather, the book she was reading. Her name was Helen. She told me she'd lost her husband a few years ago, too. That admission surprised me. Here we were, 2 strangers bound by similar losses, sitting together in silence and conversation. I realized then that grief isn't something you face alone. Sometimes it's the bridge to something new. As the sun dipped low, Helen smiled and said, "It's nice to talk. Maybe we could do this again." For the first time in a long time, I said yes. After that first conversation with Helen, something inside me shifted. It was as if a window, long sealed shut, had cracked open. We started meeting regularly, sometimes in the park, sometimes at that little cafe. Our talks were easy, unhurried. She listened without judgment, and I found myself sharing stories I hadn't told anyone else. Stories about my wife, my regrets, my hopes. But with each visit, I noticed an old fear creeping back. Was I betraying her memory by allowing myself to smile again? One evening, Helen asked me quietly, "Do you think she would want you to find happiness again?" It stopped me cold. I'd never thought about it like that. Maybe love isn't just one lifetime. Maybe it's a series of moments that shape us. For the first time, I felt ready to start living again, without guilt, without hesitation. Helen and I decided to step beyond the park and cafe. She suggested dinner at a small Italian place she loved, cozy, with soft lighting and a smell of fresh basil that made the world feel warm. Sitting across from her, I felt a nervous excitement I hadn't experienced in decades. I caught myself smiling a lot, laughing more easily, and just being present. She told me about her life before meeting her husband, her passions, and the dreams she'd tucked away. I shared bits of my own story, and for a moment the weight of grief lifted. The night ended with a simple promise. No pressure, just seeing where this goes. As I drove home, I realized something profound. I was beginning to feel alive again. The days after our dinner were filled with a strange mix of excitement and doubt. Part of me wanted to rush forward, dive into this new connection with Helen. But another part hesitated. I kept asking myself, is it too soon? Am I just trying to fill a void? What would my wife think if she could see me now? Would she be proud or hurt? Helen sensed my hesitation. One afternoon, as we walked along the riverbank, she stopped and looked at me. "Grief isn't a straight line," she said softly. "It's messy, unpredictable, but that doesn't mean you have to stop living." Her words stuck with me. Maybe loving again wasn't about replacing the past. It was about honoring it while still moving forward. Helen and I grew closer with each passing week. We shared dinners, long walks, and quiet moments that didn't need words. I found myself opening up about fears I hadn't voiced since my wife passed, about loneliness, about whether I deserved happiness. One evening I invited Helen over for dinner at my place. Cooking felt strange without her here, but Helen's presence made it feel like a new kind of home. After dinner we sat on the porch, the sky painted with stars. I told her I never thought I'd be able to do this again. Trust someone with my heart. She smiled and took my hand. Neither did I. In that moment, I realized healing wasn't about forgetting. It was about finding someone willing to walk beside you through the dark. Just when I thought things were settling into a comfortable rhythm, doubts crept back in. Family and friends were supportive but cautious. Some worried I was moving too fast. Others seemed hesitant to accept Helen as part of my life. One afternoon my daughter called. "Dad, I want you to be happy, but are you sure this is what you want?" After everything, her words hit me harder than I expected. I realized love after loss isn't just about two people. It's about navigating the feelings of everyone touched by that history. That night, Helen and I talked long and honestly. I told her about the doubts, the worries. She listened without judgment and said, "Love is never simple, but it's worth the risk." Her words gave me the courage to keep going. As time passed, Helen and I learned to face the world as a team. We attended family gatherings, sometimes awkward but always filled with genuine effort. We navigated the delicate balance between honoring the past and building something new. One weekend, we took a trip to the mountains, just the two of us. Away from expectations, from questions, from doubts. Sitting by the fire, I looked at her and felt a calm I hadn't known in years. She reached over, squeezed my hand and said, "You're not alone anymore." In that moment, I understood that love isn't about forgetting what was lost. It's about finding the strength to open your heart again, even when it feels impossible. Standing here today, I look back on the long journey through grief, doubt and fear, and I'm grateful. Grateful that I allowed myself to hope again, to trust again. Helen and I have found something rare. Not a replacement, but a new chapter. A partnership built on respect, kindness, and understanding. I still carry her memory with me. My wife, my first love. But now, alongside that memory, I hold this new love, this new life. It's not the end of the story. It's the beginning of a different one. And for the first time in a long time, I'm ready to live it fully. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Tides for more powerful tales about love, loss, and second chances. Got your own story of healing or hope? Share it in the comments. I read every one. Until next time, keep going, keep loving, keep believing.